Chapter 1301, The Real Name of the Puppet Masters. Zhang Weiyu had led armies before. Thus, he realized that this city had space for at least 300 to 400,000 soldiers. The Imperial Dragon soldiers had over 5,000 people, while the Sword Hut had slightly over 1,000 people. Who did Lu Xiaoyu leave this space for? Earlier, Lu Shu had said that he would not allow armies from the west and south regions to enter the inner city. Even if Lu Shu trusted Wen Zaifu, and even if Sun Xuanwen displayed good performance, he would not leave the lives of his family in the hands of intuition. Lu Shu knew that if his judgment was correct, Wen Zaifu would definitely attack. But since he had not attacked, this meant that Wen Zaifu had no plans of defending the city. As for Sun Xuanwen, Lu Shu felt that Sun Xuanwen did not care about the West Lord of Heaven army. He had just become the West Lord of Heaven. Before his position was stabilized, he would not think of showing off in front of Lu Shu. Many people in the West region army that he led were not yet disciplined. Sun Xuanwen had used his strength as a master to force them to come and was essentially sending them to their deaths. He wanted to purge the West region. After this battle, all the important positions in the West region would belong to the Sun family. Then, the Sun family would be stable within the West region. This was a cruel and merciless tactic. Lu Shu felt that only Sun Xuanwen was capable of this. Lu Xiaoyu looked at Zhang Weiyu. I cannot confirm everything, but we have to make sufficient preparations. Zhang Weiyu nodded his head. He felt that Chief Manager Lu Xiaoyu was much more reliable in making plans than the Great Lord. It was right to follow her plans. At that moment, Lu Shu was still waiting for a reply from the Sword Hut. Gu Lingfei looked uneasy. Lu Shu laughed cheerily. Do you think you can help your own people fight? Gu Lingfei asked, did you include the Sword Hut from the very beginning? Lu Shu's smile slowly disappeared. He said with a poker face, if I do not include you, can you stay out of the situation? Suddenly, a floating peak appeared out of thin air. Jiang Shuyi walked down the steps in her large white robe. We will follow you to the inner city. Senior disciple, are we agreeing to him so easily? Gu Lingfei seemed unwilling to give in. Jiang Shuyi smiled warmly and waved her hand. What else can we do then? He harmed our master. Gu Lingfei angrily said, we should get master back, then ask him to kill himself. I don't think master will do that. Jiang Shuyi shook her head. Although it was weird that their master had become a young girl, master was still master. They had to acknowledge her even after she reincarnated. Everything else could be cut off, but feelings could not. Jiang Shuyi and Gu Lingfei had already discussed that they would help Lu Shu. Jiang Shuyi had revealed everything in order for this to go through. But they did not expect that Lu Shu would flood the Sword Hut. This was too much. Could they discuss this first? From Jiang Shuyi's distress, plus 199. From Gu Lingfei's distress, plus 699. When Lu Shu saw that the Sword Hut had been settled, he happily ordered the slaves from the wealthy families to row over in their small boats and transport the Sword Hut disciples into the inner city. He was not worried that there would be too many people in the inner city. After all, he still had many resources from the practitioner organizations on Earth. He could not finish using everything by himself. Lu Shu was only worried that when the army led by the old king of God's evil intentions attacked, they would not have enough strength to fend them off. It was not an equal battle. The enemy had started preparing for over 10 years. He had been waiting for a long time. On the other hand, Lu Shu only began training over 2 years ago. A battle between over 10 years of preparation versus 2 years of training. It would not be realistic to say that Lu Shu would definitely win. It would make him seem too arrogant. But this did not matter. Lu Shu only wanted to know what they had prepared for him. He wanted to see if they sufficiently respected him. There were numerous small rafts between the inner and outer cities. On the rafts were the disciples of the sword hut and the slaves from the wealthy families who were working hard. Zhang Weiyu, Li Liang, and Li Haitan laughed cheerily as they saw the sword hut enter the inner city. After all, they were strong support forces. They would definitely be happy. Welcome, welcome, a warm welcome to all. Zhang Weiyu, Li Liang, and the rest almost wrote these words on their foreheads. Gu Lingfei glanced at Zhang Weiyu. The leader influences his troops. In the past, I thought that Ming Yueye and the rest were special. Now, I feel that you taught Ming Yueye the wrong things. Zhang Weiyu and the rest were not embarrassed. Instead, they were honored. After all, it was their own great lord. They did not mind. But suddenly, Zhang Weiyu felt that something was wrong. He realized that Lu Shu was dumbfounded. The next moment, Lu Shu turned and looked at Gu Lingfei. Who is Ming Yueye? Everyone was puzzled. They could hear that Lu Shu's tone was urgent. Gu Lingfei was confused. Do you need to ask me who Ming Yueye is? Lu Shu looked at Zhang Weiyu and repeated himself. Who is Ming Yueye? Zhang Weiyu hesitated. He carefully said, Great Lord, Ming Yueye is the big brother of your puppet masters. When he finished speaking, everyone saw that Lu Shu had taken out a black pearl from nowhere. Then, he disappeared. This scene was very mysterious. It was as if the name Ming Yueye had strong magical powers. If not, why did Lu Shu react that way? Furthermore, what was that black pearl? Did Lu Shu use the black pearl to open the door to another space? Everyone was dumbfounded. Gu Lingfei was no exception. Gu Lingfei turned and looked at Jiang Shui. She realized that he was also puzzled. Someone curiously asked Zhang Weiyu, Isn't Big Brother dead? What other secrets are there? Evidently, Big Brother is not dead. Zhang Weiyu immediately spoke the truth. If Ming Yueye was dead, Lu Shu would not have reacted like that. Dead people were in no hurry for time. After Lu Shu came to the Luniverse, he had always avoided confessing his identity. Furthermore, he did not have anyone suitable to explain common knowledge to him. For example, what were the puppet masters called? Of course, this was not considered common knowledge. What if Lu Shu went to ask the master of a wealthy family, what are the puppet masters called? The masters would also be puzzled. The puppet masters were the puppet masters. Puppet master was a title that represented the respect that the outside world had towards them. The puppet masters were highly respected. Few people remembered their real names, except masters like Gu Lingfei. Furthermore, when expressing rage towards certain people, their real name had to be used. For example, when Lu Xiaoyu was not angry, she would call Lu Shu Lu Xiaoshu. But when she was angry, she would shout in a particularly loud and fierce tone, Lu Shu. This was a common occurrence when people were angry. At first, Zhang Weiyu was not willing to let Lu Shu know about some secrets. Later on, when Zhang Weiyu discovered Lu Shu's identity, they did not talk much. Thus, Lu Shu was not willing to wait. He opened the black pearl. He hoped that he had not missed out on anything. Chapter 1302, Realm of the King of Gods. There were many missed opportunities and regrets in life. Lu Shu did not want to see these happen to himself. But if he could be in charge of everything in life, it would be a dream. Lu Shu and Ming Yueye did not have a pleasant relationship. They saw each other as tricksters and unreliable people. It was common for them to trick each other. But there were times when they were open and frank with each other. When Lu Shu was troubled, he came to look for Ming Yueye. They drank alcohol and talked. Back then, Lu Shu felt that Ming Yueye would not interact with his world. He did not know who Ming Yueye was. He did not care either. But now, many twists and turns had occurred. These twists had caught Lu Shu off guard. He visited the Chaos Abyss once again. The first time he came here, the chaos abyss was filled with black fog. Someone had used the fog to prevent Mingyue from regaining his strength. The person who had imprisoned Mingyue had locked him up here to slowly torture him. But Mingyue was ferocious. He had survived for over 10 years. Lu Shu suddenly thought of using chaos to absorb all the black fog. It might allow Mingyue to be more comfortable. The person who imprisoned Mingyue definitely had something to do with the evil intentions of God Lu, but it was difficult to discern whether they were the same person. Coming here was very risky, but Lu Shu had to come. The previous time Lu Shu came, someone suddenly came from above the abyss. No matter who that person was, they would have seen that the black fog had disappeared. They would also have realized the remains of the roast chicken. All this proved something. An outsider had come. Thus, when Lu Shu visited this time, something good might be waiting for him. But when Lu Shu came to the chaos abyss through the black pearl, no one was waiting for him. Mingyue had also disappeared. The chains that had restricted Mingyue had broken into pieces and were on the floor. There were no signs of blood or battles. This meant that Mingyue had simply been brought away. He was definitely not dead. When Lu Shu thought about the fact that Mingyue was still alive, he suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. As long as he was alive, there would be hope. But, where was Mingyue now? Lu Shu looked up and looked at the darkness above the chaos abyss. Mingyue had said that someone had come from above. The exit must be above. Should he go up? If he did, he would have to face the person who locked Mingyue up. He would also have to face an unknown danger. Mingyue had been here for over 10 years. He was definitely very lonely. He had no one to talk to in the darkness. No one gave him food to eat either. He relied on his strength to hang on to his life. Perhaps Mingyue had been waiting for the return of the King of Gods to save him, but it never happened. There were times when death was the true escape. Without dying, one could only continue waiting in the darkness. Zhang Weiyu and the others could move freely, but Mingyue could only bear the torture of solitude. When Lu Shu thought about this, he looked up. He had the opportunity to let Mingyue out, but he did not. This was his mistake. He had to make up for his own mistakes. Lu Shu climbed up the rock wall. He did not fly up, as Mingyue had warned him that Chaos Holy Fire was above. What was the Chaos Holy Fire? Would it be suppressed by his white flame? The precipices of the Chaos Abyss were not straight. Instead, they meandered like cracked glaciers. This was the reason why there was no light below him. Lu Shu used both his arms and legs to climb up. He could grab the stones to support himself. The stones, which seemed sturdy, were as soft as tofu in Lu Shu's hands. Later on, Lu Shu jumped between the two walls. He bounced back and forth on the walls like a spring as he ascended. But half an hour later, Lu Shu was dumbfounded. In front of him was a white sea of flames that covered the abyss like the sky. But the white sea of flames was exactly the same as his white flame, right? The sea of flame seemed to have sensed something and surged towards Lu Shu. But Lu Shu did not dodge. He felt the flame in his heart jumping in joy. It was as if it had reunited with an old friend. At first, Lu Shu had a guess. Now, he finally confirmed that this was the heart flame he had lost. Lu Shu was very weak since his birth. Was this because he reincarnated? No. Reality proved that Chao Qingxi was fine. Coral did not experience any side effects either. Why was he the only weak one? Back then, when he got into a car accident, the flame within the black swaddling cloth returned to his body. Lu Shu felt a sense of joy akin to a reunion. Back then, he did not know why. Now, he understood. Someone had taken the heart flame away from him. The enemy had probably thought about taking this away from him. But they realized that even when his heart flame was taken away, his celestial map could not be stolen. They could only wait for Lu Shu to advance beyond the master realm. He was sickly not because his body was weak, nor was it because his kidney was weak. It was because he lost such an important thing. It was just like when Coral used a branch from the world tree to reincarnate. When the branch broke, she almost died. However, she completely recovered after obtaining the world tree. Furthermore, to Lu Shu, the heart flame was like the branch from the world tree. He was strong enough to have survived. Of course, the old king of gods was the strongest person in this world. When Lu Shu floated above the abyss and waited for the sea of flames to go into his heart, the flame in his heart grew more and more excited. There was also rage accumulating. He was someone who bore grudges. When he thought about this grudge that concerned his life and death, it was impossible for him not to be angry. Why had they planned so much to take something from him? Because other than the old king of gods, no one else knew how to reach the highest realm. According to the Sword Hut records, the realm above the Master Realm was called the Eternity Realm. When one reached this realm, they would form a small world. Others had to break open the walls of the small world before they could injure the person. Once this realm was reached, one's body would be a distinct world from the outside world. If there was no external intervention, they would not die. The realm beyond the Eternity Realm was simple. The Sword Hut records only used a few words to describe this realm. The realm of the King of Gods. Only the King of Gods can reach Paramitha. Even a place as strong as the Sword Hut had not seen anyone able to reach this realm. The head of the Sword Hut had never thought of this either. Furthermore, the King of Gods was the natural ruler of this world, as he seemed to be the only one who could directly walk on the Great Tao. Chapter 1303, Beyond the Abyss. The head of the Sword Hut should have known God Lu's secrets. Thus, she knew that as long as the old King of Gods wanted to, he would be able to reach that realm. But there was a price to pay. He had to absorb the dark map, which stood alongside the celestial map. It was like yin and yang. He also had to overcome desire in order to achieve the 7th level of Nebula. God Lu had always had the ability to reach Paramitha. Lu Shu believed that he definitely had enough distress points to do so, but decided not to. Lu Shu felt that if God Lu had killed Lural in order to advance his realm without any emotions, then all this would not have happened. He would not have given up his strength to reincarnate. The head of the Sword Hut would not put everything down for a person like this either. God Lu would not have any emotional burden. He was a demon inside out. Luckily, there was some kindness in God Lu's heart. This was probably the reason why all this had happened. Lu Shu felt the flames in his heart surging. He had been curious that although filth removal had obtained the punishment flame, it was not active enough. When he used it to burn Duanmu Huangqi, he felt that it was not enough. It felt as if something was lacking. Now that he had new punishment flames surging in, Lu Shu felt that these flames were like his water-type abilities. They would be able to help him greatly. The flame in his heart was nothing compared to this sea of flames. How did the punishment flame grow? But at that moment, filth removal, who had been silent for a very long time, suddenly said, "The punishment flame feeds on punishment. Your punishment flame was weak because there was too little firewood. Your firewood is giving others punishment. Didn't you realize that the flame grew stronger after Duanmu Huangqi died?" Lu Shu said unkindly, "Why are you suddenly so polite? How kind of you to give me an explanation. Aren't you going to light up the 6th nebula?" Filth removal laughed heartily. Lu Shu laughed coldly. "It's too late for you to be obedient. Laughing heartily like that is useless." Earlier, Lu Shu had still been upset over the punishment. Thus, filth removal had escaped to the 6th nebula. Surprisingly, he had hidden until now. He was able to hide as Lu Shu was still unable to control the 6th level. But now, he watched as the stars in the 6th level slowly light up. When only one star was left, Filth Removal panicked. He quickly said something good. But now, Lu Shu was too lazy to deal with this. Filth Removal had saved him a lot of effort that would have been put into researching the punishment flame. He learned that the previous punishment flame was weak as it had not grown. On the other hand, the sea of flames here helped Lu Shu greatly. That can't be right. Since they knew that I would come, why did they leave the punishment flame here? Lu Shu felt that something was wrong. After all, the evil intentions of God Lu probably knew that these punishment flames would not be able to injure Lu Shu. On the contrary, they would help Lu Shu. Filth Removal smeared on the celestial map. The person who took away your punishment flame can still use this flame. But after you went through the punishment and brought me back, no one else except you can use it. Thus, they probably want to take this flame, but the problem is, I am here. He can't take the flames away. Oh. Lu Shu curiously asked, that way, you are somewhat useful, right? Yes. Of course I'm useful. Filth Removal laughed heartily. Please don't be angry at me. The punishment was something you left behind for yourself. It has nothing to do with me. Okay. Lu Shu impatiently waved his hand. Am I someone who will bear grudges? Filth Removal was dumbfounded. If Lu Shu did not bear grudges, he would not be hiding on the 6th level of Nebula, right? Lu Shu did not care about Filth Removal. After he had returned Filth Removal to its former position, he had benefited. Simply said, the punishment flame was his own fire-type abilities with special abilities. Not only was it able to suppress other fire types, those who were burnt would also receive punishment. Compared to Lu Shu's fire-type abilities, the fire-type abilities of others were like beggars. This level of destruction was like when he first received the mystic water. Back then, his mystic water had frightening abilities of corrosion. It was a pity that the mystic water turned into chaos. Of course, this was not much of a pity. Chaos was not bad as well. Lu Shu felt that he was a fire-water dual-type metahuman. He was unique. No one had heard of anyone who could awaken both water and fire-type abilities. But Lu Shu felt that the punishment flame was less interesting than his water-type abilities. It was not that it was weak. It simply did not have many functions. With his water-type abilities, Lu Shu could absorb blood, make people cry, and divert courses. As for his fire-type abilities, its functions remained to be discovered. He flew outside the abyss. It was not a trap or a pitfall as he had expected. He found himself within a palace complex. Lu Shu had come here to save Ming Yueya. But the situation on the ground was slightly different from what he had expected. The abyss was behind a palace. Whose palace was this? There were not many people in the universe who had the right to possess such palaces. Thus, if he was able to determine the owner of this palace, would he be able to find out who was behind this? Lu Shu could hear someone singing from inside the palace. The singing was mournful but touching. It was very melancholic. The lyrics sounded as if they were from an opera. But to Lu Shu's shock, the person singing was almost definitely a male. Bells rang throughout the palace. It seemed very crowded. At that moment, 2 rows of young men in formal wear walked out from behind a wall. They were very beautiful. But Lu Shu felt that something was odd. These people were like imperial palace maids. They carried intricate bamboo baskets. Inside the baskets were robes and hats adorned with dragons, as well as belts decorated with red jade. But Lu Shu was more interested in their strength. They were all rank 1 experts. Someone softly said behind Lu Shu, "Please change your clothes. The Lord of Heaven is waiting for you in the hall." Lu Shu raised his eyebrows and laughed coldly. "All those who do not wish to die, go away. I have no time to take care of you." Then, he ran into the palace. Since they were waiting for Lu Shu here, how could he retreat? As long as Ming Yueya was still here, he could not retreat. "My lord, you are going in the wrong direction," said the person softly. "Oh. Thank you." Lu Shu broke through a wall and ran in the direction the person pointed out. Lu Shu knew who the owner of this palace was. It was Yu Fuyao. Other than Yu Fuyao, no one would have a palace full of men. Furthermore, Lu Shu already had his suspicions towards Yu Fuyao. After all, the first time he met Yu Fuyao, she was the only person who caused his punishment flame to react. Back then, she might have still been able to control the punishment flame. But what made Lu Shu uneasy was that Yu Fuyao had taken in many male companions, but she had probably trained all these male companions as her underlings. Yu Fuyao did not even spare her reputation. What was she planning? Chapter 1304, Two King of Gods. The palace was not as extravagant as Lu Shu had expected. Instead, it felt like a product built by the apprentice of a minimalist designer. There were no golden dragons or beast sculptures. There were no golden rooftops or glass either. This palace was much simpler than the one in the West capital, but Lu Shu did not look at these appearances. He was more interested in the qualities behind this minimalism. It was said that the more complex one's thoughts were, the more they preferred simplicity. This was not absolute, but this was true most of the time. The study rooms of tacticians and people in power were typically simple. Only young girls would fill their rooms with dolls and decorations. Lu Shu walked towards the main hall of the palace. Walking straight was a tradition of honor among the imperial dragon soldiers. Gradually, Lu Shu realized that this palace was not just filled with males. There were many women as well. Although Lu Shu had broken through a wall, the slaves in the palace did not seem surprised. Everyone would respectfully bow to Lu Shu after seeing him. It was as if they had been told to do so in advance. Yu Fuyao had been waiting for his arrival. Lu Shu knew this. But Lu Shu realized something strange. Although everyone in the palace was polite, Lu Shu could not sense any of their feelings. Each of them were like puppets. There were times when Lu Shu saw a few people after breaking through walls. He would wonder whether he just seen these people. He immediately realized that he had not seen the same person twice. The people in the palace had very standard appearances, as if they had been formed from the same mold. They obviously looked different, but their aura made them seem like the same person. Lu Shu was careful. No one followed him. Everyone went back to their own business after greeting him. These rank 1 experts who hid in the palace had no intention of ambushing Lu Shu. He could not understand what Yu Fuyao was up to. Had he wrongly accused her? Wait. To Lu Shu's shock, he realized that one of the beautiful, imperial palace maids had an Adam's apple. Lu Shu suddenly felt goosebumps forming. There were people who cross-dressed on Earth, but the problem was, these imperial palace maids were probably not willing to do so. Lu Shu recalled the male companions he had seen. They were pale and did not have beards. Their voices were also strangely shrill. They had probably been castrated. What was happening? What happened to her male companions? Were they still male companions after being castrated? It was just as he had expected. All of this was fake. All of this had been done to conceal the fact that she had been nurturing underlings. The thick and pale makeup, as well as the beautiful dresses, made Lu Shu feel as if he was in a supernatural world. He ran towards the main hall. After he arrived, the gates were completely open. Lu Shu could only see the lamps inside the hall. Purple curtains fell from the ceiling. A breeze blew. Among the shadows inside the hall, someone was lazily lying on the throne. There were dozens of servants meekly singing in front of the throne. Lu Shu slowly walked in. Before he could even speak, Yu Fuyao, who was sitting on the throne, spoke first. "You broke dozens of my walls. Pay up." Lu Shu did not speak. Instead, he continued to observe his surroundings. When Yu Fuyao saw that he did not speak, she said, "If you don't wish to pay, then fine. Stay here. You can use yourself to pay up." Where is Ming Yueye? Lu Shu would not have forgotten the reason why he was here. How boring. Yu Fuyao yawned. She waved to her servants, "Bring him over." The servants gracefully retreated from the palace. Before Ming Yueye was brought over, Yu Fuyao asked, "Is there anything you would like to ask? The slave owners who entered North America were all yours, right?" This was Lu Shu's first question. "Yes, it was me." Yu Fuyao batted her eyelids. "That's all? Aren't you going to ask me whether my male companions are real? Did you kill the slave owners to make me believe you?" This was Lu Shu's second question. Yu Fuyao's words had no effect on him. Yu Fuyao sighed. "How would I have known that you were able to enter that abyss and see Ming Yueye? He is flawless. But it is a pity. He thought that you would know the truth after seeing Ming Yueye. Who would have thought that you would defend against him? If not, why would this have dragged on until now?" Lu Shu was dumbfounded. When he found out that Ming Yueye was the big brother of the puppet masters, he felt that something was wrong. More accurately, when he saw Ming Yueye in the pearl, he already felt that something was not right. It was evident that the pearl was not created by the person who had locked Ming Yueye up. Who would be so free as to open the door? Unless that person had some plans, or knew that the abyss had always been used by Yu Fuyao to imprison convicts for life. Was the flawless person God Lu? Lu Shu always had a question. The pearl looked like something he had seen before. For example, when he chased and killed the 21 underlings on the limestone road in the palace, they had destroyed a purple pearl to escape. But this black pearl was much more powerful. It could be used multiple times. How had this item from the Luniverse ended up on Earth? Although the family said during the deal that it had been passed down through the generations, Lu Shu did not believe this at all. His only clue was the box he had not found. Tear Tricker had carried this box to Luo City. Although the swaddling cloth and the gourd had returned to its owner, the box had disappeared. Furthermore, no one knew what was inside the box. Lu Shu felt that he had to go back and talk to that family. He might be able to find the box. Even the swaddling cloth was not an ordinary object. The box was definitely special. But there was an awkward situation. God Lu had left the most convenient channel for Lu Shu to obtain news and information, but Lu Shu and Ming Yueye had used it to trick each other. Even if he had never failed, he needed normal allies. Lu Shu asked his third question. "Why did you want to take the punishment flame away from me?" Yu Fuyao thought about it. She casually played with her hair as she spoke. "One day, a spirit that looked exactly like you suddenly appeared in front of me and told me that you were dead. He had taken the dark map, but he had to combine it with the celestial map in order to revive you. But I didn't expect to receive a punishment when I took the punishment flame away. This gave Ming Yueye a chance to take you away and leave. Of course, this was good. Later on, I realized that I had not been successful. If I killed you then, all hope would have been lost. How can a spirit last for so long?" Lu Shu furrowed his eyebrows. Chapter 1305, Yu Fuyao's Decision. When you helped Ouyang Lishang to create the bronze lamp, you actually created two. Yu Fuyao laughed. How interesting. Facing the reincarnated you suddenly gives me a strange but refreshing feeling. You are so young and tender. You are so youthful. You are so kind. I don't quite know what to do. Lu Shu pondered deeply. So the evil intention was like Ouyang Lishang. Although the bronze lamp gave them another life, they could not move around freely. The spirit in the bronze lamp was not affected by strength. It was equivalent to creating another body. The bronze lamp became another world. For example, When Ouyang Lishang refined weapons, he needed to use his strength as support. Swinging a hammer was like nothing for him. But someone who had advanced beyond the master realm had been locked up in a bronze lamp. No wonder he wanted to reincarnate so badly. Can the dark map counter the celestial map? Lu Shu had never thought of this problem. The celestial map was able to suppress everything in the dark map. Thus, rationally, it was not possible for the dark map to counter the celestial map. They could have 6 spirits of masters, but they were no match for Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow. No wonder they only dared to hide behind the scenes, and slowly revealed themselves now. They probably felt that they were safe now, right? It was normal for them to be cautious. Even though they had advanced beyond the Master Realm, it was easy for them to be killed by Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow. Furthermore, Corpse Dog and Concealed Arrow were secondary. Most importantly, Sparrow Shade was able to completely conceal Lu Shu. To these spirits, Sparrow Shade was like the spines of a hedgehog. Furthermore, they were as strong as balloons. When Lu Shu thought about how he had accidentally used Corpse Dog to cut through the pig that Lu Xiaoyu had captured and made her angry, for 1 week, Lu Shu suddenly felt that all of this had to end quickly. He should return back home quickly. After all, there were many ways to deal with this situation. But a complete celestial map was required to counter the evil intention of God Lu. It looked like this eventually fell on Yu Fuyao. The evil intention of God Lu was planning to use Yu Fuyao to finish all this. Lu Shu looked at Yu Fuyao. Where is he now? How would I know? Yu Fuyao laughed. He bore the weight of the King of God's dark side, including his distrust and cruelty. How would he be able to trust me, let alone make me help him obtain the celestial map? Is he able to move freely? Lu Shu asked curiously. The dark map is able to capture spirits. Yu Fuyao smiled. The spirits carry the bronze lamp. They can go anywhere. Now, he has 6 spirits. Who will be able to stop him? Have you thought about this? If you take away my celestial map, you will die after he counterattacks, said Lu Shu calmly. This was what bothered him. Was Yu Fuyao not afraid to die? The imperial palace was silent. Yu Fuyao laughed. Her laughter was mournful. It was sweet and miserable. Of course I know that I will die. But this is the first time you have asked me to do something. I love you so much. How could you have rejected me? Lu Shu suddenly had a strange feeling. It was as if no matter whether it was through him or through the evil intention of God Lu, in the end, Yu Fuyao saw God Lu himself. Furthermore, she had planned for such a long time and committed so many massacres to sacrifice herself in exchange for the return of God Lu. This was despite the fact that God Lu was imperfect, and he had a dark side. Of course, after you have returned, I have been thinking of a question. Yu Fuyao's expression slowly returned to normal. I can help you. You are God Lu. So is he. Wouldn't it be the same no matter who I help? Lu Shu did not speak. He was not willing to admit that he was God Lu. He wanted to believe that his previous life was over. Yu Fuyao continued. But in the end, I have decided to help him. Do you know why? Why? Lu Shu asked. Because you don't belong to me, but he is different. Yu Fuyao smiled. He does not belong to you either. Furthermore, you will die, said Lu Shu. What I can't obtain, said Yu Fuyao with a resolute tone, no one else will. That is right. He will not love me, but he carries the dark side of God Lu. This means that he will not love anyone else either. Lu Shu silently sighed. He did not want to judge whether Yu Fuyao had made the right decision. In reality, there was no right or wrong in this world. Lu Shu had seen her memorial before. There were many feelings in her poems. But one day, these feelings stopped. The memorial was left blank. It was probably from then that Yu Fuyao made her decision. But after the incident at the palace of the King of Gods, she found the best opportunity to destroy things. With just you and him, it will not be enough to take anything away from me. Lu Shu thought about it and said, does he have any other tricks? Be careful of Qing Kong, said Yu Fuyao. Chang Kong? Do you know something? Lu Shu asked curiously. No, Yu Fuyao said, it's not that I know something. I am reminding you to be careful of those who are honest. Most honest people are not honest at all. Just as Lu Shu thought about what trouble Qing Kong, the North Lord of Heaven, could possibly cause, Yu Fuyao continued. But how do you know that I have no confidence to deal with you? Lu Shu did not argue. We shall wait and see. Or, are you trying to do so now? No one will do much before you advance beyond the master class. Yu Fuyao supported her chin with her hands and sat down on the throne. Of course, based on your personality, I don't think you will be able to advance for the rest of your life, but you are bound in this lifetime. You have no other chance. Sakurai Yeiko was just the appetizer. Do you understand? If you can save her once, can you continue saving her for the rest of your life? The universe and the earth were about to be connected. Lu Shu could not defend against them for the rest of his life. This was also the reason why he had come to the universe. If he was not bound, Lu Shu would stay as a master for the rest of life. If they wanted something, he would not give it to them. He would make them worry for the rest of their lives and supply him with distress points, but now, it was different. Thus, the present that they had promised was to give him enough distress points to light up the 6th level of Nebula. They would then have the basis to take away the celestial map and complete the counterattack. Yu Fuyao shouted outside the imperial palace. Bring him in. At this moment, the servants waiting outside brought Ming Yue in. He was bloody. He had been tortured to the point that he did not look human. He was completely unconscious. Lu Shu gazed at Yu Fuyao. I will wait for you patiently at the palace. With that, he kept Ming Yue in the celestial map. The next moment, he retreated through the Black Pearl.
What does it mean to be happy? 'Cause it looks like we all don't know. Glass half full or empty, man, we just putting on a show. Try to look to the heavens.